Welcome to another video from earnped.com. I am Stevie B. Happy to have you all with us today. You guys might hear my family in the background. Normally I would wait to make this, but I'm going to go ahead and make it right here, right now. So bear with me if there's some background noise, guys. So forget where I am, forget what I'm doing, because nothing about what you're seeing on the screen is actually what I want to bring to everybody's attention today, because I need your help. Every single sub, every single player, I need your help. So back in September, Arkadia had the Gold Rush event. Now, Category 1 was limited to players who had 125 HP or less. There was no DPS limit. There was no differentiation between Categories 2, 3, and 4. So right from the get-go, most of us were smart enough to say, it doesn't make any sense for me to be in Category 2 or 3 or 4 whenever I'm going to be competing against Messi, JBK, and the players in the game who have the biggest DPS in the game. Now, the way the competition worked was as you killed creatures, you got a random amount of points. And I believe the highest point award was 250 points. So it wasn't like there was some massive 5,000 pointer you could hit. And the faster you killed, the better, because the more points you racked up. You had to run for 20 hours, and it was a normalized score. So a player who ran for 20 hours and got 1,000 points an hour for a total score of 20,000 was supposed to win over a player who ran for 40 hours and ended up with a score of 39,900. So, right away, it made no sense for me to compete. However, my ex-girlfriend, who most of you know, Princess Hotsalot, did want to compete, and she could be in Category 1. So, as I've said from the beginning, when Gold Rush started, I decided to sponsor her. I took all the financial risk, I helped her get everything she needed for a proper run, and she did all the work. Now, luckily, I am very well informed on the game, so first I'll go over what happened, what the results were, then I'll explain how it happened, and then I'll explain what I sent to Arkadia and what I need from you guys. So the results just came out, so let me go over the results with you. Category 1, first place, Star Fox McCloud. Total score, 443,749.94 points. Second place, Princess Hotsalot, my ex, 375,641.46 points. Third place, Saint Momo, 359,789.55 points. So notice second and third place are actually fairly close, about a 15,000 point difference, right? But the difference between first and second is almost 75,000 points. Guys, I did the math. That's an 18.12% gap. 18.12, which is not possible unless somebody circumnavigated the system. Let me explain why. If we look at the buffs, buffs give you an item buff, an action buff, and a total buff. So for reload speed, you can get no more than 15% from items. So if you're wearing an Ares Perfected, which gives you 15%, plus a flimsy helmet, which gives you 5, you don't get 20. It's going to cap you at 15. Let's say you had an Ares Improved for 15, and then Action, Pill, Modified Neurostim is the only one in the game that gives you 20% reload. You're not going to have 35% reload, you're going to have 30%, because again, you're exceeding the cap, so the system is going to stop you. So here is the problem with that 18.12% gap between first and second place. This is how I know that the competition was not secured. This is how I know somebody bypassed the system. And this is why I'm calling it out right now, so all of you can help me call it out. Because if we're going to have a game based off of a real cash economy, and we're going to have competitions for real cash prizes, we've got to have secure competitions, guys. Let me explain what Princess used for her run. She had my Ares Improved on her right hand, which gave her 8% reload speed from item. She had a flimsy helmet, like mine, for another 5%. So from item alone, she was running 13% reload. Now that is 2% below the item cap. However, over the years, I had slowly acquired virtually the entire stock of Modified Neurostim in this game. I had 17 of them. Modified Neurostim maxes out action from virtually every buff imaginable. So, it is the only pill in game that gives you 20% reload from action. So she had 13% from item, and for 17 of the 20 hours, she had 20% reload from action, from the Modified Neurostim, which put her at 33% reload, which means she was exceeding the reload cap by 3% for 17 hours. which meant that it was only giving her 30% reload and not counting the extra 3. Fine. But Modified Neurostim also does something else. It maxes out your increased critical hit chance from action, not from item. Okay, so she had that maxed out from action. Then she had the Ares Ring, which gave her 0.6% on the item side. Now there was about another 3% gap, maybe 4% gap there that she could have got, but it wouldn't matter. Now the one thing that Modified Neurostim does not max out is critical damage from the action side, which is why in addition to Modified Neurostim, she was also running Devastim FEN, which maxes out critical damage inflicted at 60%, the most you can get from an action. Okay? So, let's take this a step further. Her skills are almost entirely from laser rifle and BLP rifle. She does no melee, she has very little defense, she pretty much doesn't do anything but shoot things that are so far away they're not going to ever hit her, right? So, she even had chipped out a lot of skills over the years because she just didn't really need them. So she was using larger guns than what most people with less than 125 HP would have. With less than 125 HP, you're not going to be able to use a level 100 unlimited weapon or JBK's gun or Messi's dagger. It's just not possible because you can't max it. So she was using LR25s, LR30s, BP25s, BP30s, all of which were tier 8, 9, or 10, mainly 9 or 10, full damage enhancers, and overamped for the entire run. She was shooting so fast that it was taking an average of 1.4 shots per kill. She was shooting so fast, inflicting so much damage, that she was not able to collect roughly 35% of the loot because she had to keep running to get to where the next creature was going to be so she could just get the next shot off because the points were more important than the loot. And when I say she didn't have a chance to loot, I mean she was running a loot pill and she was shooting and killing so quickly that she couldn't even get close enough while running and shooting and killing for the loot pill to collect the loot. So think about what I'm telling you. So there is nothing that I can conceivably come up with in this game under those scenarios that will allow any player to beat her by an 18.12% margin. Because even if you had an item that could increase your critical chance by 1, 2, 3%, it's not going to make that big of a difference. Even if you had Earthshocker armor, which she did not, that would increase the critical damage, it's not going to increase your ability to kill that much faster. It's just not. That's an 18% gap. Okay? When you're one-shotting the vast majority of the creatures, and the ones that you aren't one-shotting only take one extra shot to hit, there's no amount of extra increased critical chance or extra increased critical damage that is going to make an 18% gap. It's just not possible. Now, if I'm wrong, if somebody can do the math and show me a way it can be done, I will be more than happy to retract this video, and I will be more than happy to tell her to just bite it and deal with it. However, looking at the system, I cannot conceivably find a way that it can be done with any item in game, with any setup in game, with any combination of things in game. There is nothing I'm seeing here that is allowing me to create an 18% gap in those numbers unless the buff system was being overridden. And this is what happened with Mayhem before they retooled it, is people were spawning the Yogg pet designed to give you 50% faster excavation speed when mining. They were spawning it inside the instance, so they were getting an extra 50% reload speed, and it wasn't being capped out by the system. So the people who were competing legitimately were being capped at 30%, but if you had the Yogg pet, you would be able to bypass that. So you didn't have to have the pills, you didn't have to have everything else. If you had the Yogg pet, you were able to shoot 20% faster because the Yogg pet had 50% reload, and the system was capping the legitimate players at 30% reload. Now what is the difference there? 20%. Think about what number I just told you this is that I'm working with here. 18.12. So somehow somebody was able to rack up a score that is 18.12% higher And we know that without having rings, without having any reload speed from items, without having any reload speed from pills like Hyperstim or Modified Neurostim, if all you did was able to bypass the system by spawning the Yogg Pet, you would have 20% more reload speed than anybody else. So bypassing the system gives you 20% more reload speed. There's an 18.12% gap in the winners between first and second place. And you mean to tell me that's a coincidence? You know what we call that statistically? Correlation. So why wasn't this competition secured? Because the only way I can find that those numbers are possible is if that's exactly what happened, is the person who got first place and created that 18.12% gap didn't use any rings, didn't use any buffs, didn't use any pills, just spawned the Yogg Pet, got their 50% reload speed, and that accounts for the 20% difference. So again, I'm asking my thousands of subscribers, I'm asking the Ark development team, I'm asking MindArk, I'm asking everybody, if you can come up with another set of things in-game that will allow for those numbers, please let me know. Please make this public information. However, the one thing that we know will do that happens to give exactly a 20% advantage, and we're looking at somebody who won by an 18.12% advantage. An 18.12% margin. So, don't tell me that the system wasn't bypassed. Unless you have a way to show me it was, legitimately was not, do not tell me it wasn't when the numbers are that freaking accurate. So, that being said, let's look at the other categories. Category 2, first place, 187,900 points. Second place, 173,743. Third place, 152,887. Notice there's not a 20% margin there anywhere. Let's look at Category 3, 99,839, 96,121, 91,743. No 18% gap. Category 4, 57,625, 56,584, 54,911. And then Solo somehow was in 7th place. Oh, that's why, 7th place for Solo. Okay, so again, no 18% gap. So Category 2, Category 3, Category 4, all the numbers are pretty freakishly close. No massive 18% gap, because everybody was running as efficiently as possible. Category 1 is the only exception. And again, second and third place, you have some freakishly close scores. Only about a 15,000 point difference, almost 16,000. However, there's that 18% gap between first and second. So how in the world is that kind of a gap doable if everybody is running efficiently? If everybody is maxing the system out? If everybody is running with the most that they can run? And again, it would be different if it took 15 shots to kill each creature. But in Category 1, that wasn't the case. In Category 1, they only had 110 HP. So in Category 1, you were looking at 5 or 6 creatures in a row that would be one-shotted, and then one creature might take 2 shots. So for an average of like 1.4 shots per creature, it doesn't matter how much more critical damage you do, it doesn't matter how much more increased critical chance you have, because again, those things are being capped by the system anyway, and it's not going to make that vast of a difference. The only way those numbers are possible is if the system is bypassed. And the one way we know that you could bypass the old Mayhem system was with the Yogg Pet that gave you exactly a 20% advantage. Now, if you were also running with full reload from item and action, that would have actually given you 80% reload, which means that that actually should have been a larger spread. But if you're smart and you're keeping your costs down, why would you even bother with the exceptionally high extra cost that comes with doing that if you could just spawn the Yogg Pet and know that you had a 20% advantage off the top? You wouldn't, right? Now, my thing is, I will not cheat at this game. I will not sponsor anybody who's going to cheat at this game. If you want to compete, I don't care if you're my ex-girlfriend or not. If you're a friend of mine and you're wanting me to sponsor you and you're going to compete, you're going to do it the right way. However, I'm also going to call it out when something is done incorrectly. Now again, if there was some legitimate way that that 18% gap could be there, I will be the first to say congratulations to the person who got first place. I will literally, virtually shake their hand, and I will even make a video if they want to start a warp service or something, just to help them out. However, looking at the numbers, that gap is not possible unless the system is circumnavigated. It's just not. And again, that's why I'm not relying on my brain. I'm relying on the brain of every other person out there. Every person that watches my videos, every person that knows somebody who watches my videos. Y'all do the math. Y'all show me how it's possible so I can graciously say, this person truly deserved to win this competition. However, here's the problem. I had the vast majority of the modified neurostim in game. That's part of the reason I decided to sponsor her, because I knew it would max out her reload speed. It took me over 2 years to get 17 modified neurostim. So even if you had an Ares improved, or an Ares perfected, even if you had Hyper 15, you weren't shooting any faster than she was. Except for those last 3 hours. You would be getting about an extra 2% on her for 3 hours. 2% on her for 3 hours, not enough to make up for that. She was also running at almost max run speed, like 22% increased run speed. So the only possible way I can come up with is whoever got first somehow circumnavigated the system. And the easiest way to do that, it seems to me, based off the numbers, is the Yogg pet that gives you 50% reload speed instead of 30. Because it just seems really, really weird to me that we're talking about an 18.12% gap when we know of a way that you used to be able to circumnavigate the system that gave you a 20% faster reload than should be possible. So why are these numbers so freakishly close if that's just a coincidence? How can that be just a coincidence? So I got a hold of Artificial Dylan. Like, Princess is actually outside smoking a cigarette, so mad that she won't even come in here and talk to me. Dylan, why wasn't the Gold Rush competition secured? Since there was no difference in Cats 2, 3, 4 from an HP or DPS limit standpoint, it made no sense for me to compete against the likes of JBK, Messi, etc. As I made everyone aware from the start, I decided to sponsor my ex since she wanted to participate in Category 1. She's actually trying to get a hold of you through the forum at the moment. I am also. As part of the sponsorship agreement we made, I took all the financial risk and she did all the work. So if she was running 13% reload speed from items and 20% reload speed from actions, using 17 modified neurostim, then 3 hyper 15s, she had reload max past what the system would allow for 17 straight hours. She was also running Diva FEN for a lot of the competition, since it's the one thing that Mod Neuro doesn't max from the action side. Her skills are almost all from rifle hunting. She used tier 8, 9, 10 weapons with full damage enhancers and overamped. That means her average shots per kill was 1.4. She was killing so fast she wasn't able to collect approximately 35% of the loot from the creatures, and she was using a loot collection pill because she had to keep moving to where the next creature would be. So how was she beat by 18.12% unless the competition was compromised in a situation similar to how they used the Yogg pets to bypass the reload speed cap in Mayhem? Increasing critical damage would not account for that 18%. When the creatures take an average of 1.4 shots to kill, that wouldn't help. Neither would increasing critical chance. Now remember, Mod Neuro actually maxes your increased critical chance from the action perspective, not from the item perspective. But the only way you would be able to do that would be like with an Easter 2021 ring or something. Even higher DPS wouldn't help. There's a reason second and third place scores for Cat 1 are so close. It's the most the system can handle legitimately. Yet the Cat 1 first place score is 18.12% higher. Why was this competition not secured? How did they bypass the system of caps? Why was this not a disqualification? As I mentioned, she's trying to get a hold of you via the forum to ask you the same question. However, this seemed the fastest way to relay the info. As of this moment, we are not yet making this information available to the masses, since the ARC team deserves a chance to investigate the problem. Now, that is true. I am going to give them time. And by time, I mean they got a couple hours. And in a couple hours, this video goes live. Because here's the thing, guys. Again, if we're going to have a real cash economy, and we're going to create competitions for prizes worth good money, then we've got to be sure that's secure. Just because I don't want to compete in something doesn't mean I'm not willing to sponsor a friend, if I think the friend can win. However, I am tired of seeing competitions like Mayhem, like Gold Rush, where it is blatantly obvious to anybody with a brain that all the scores should be really, really close. But yet there's a score that is 18.12% higher. We know of an old vulnerability that allowed you to get a 20% advantage that should have been a disqualification, and everybody just acts like it didn't happen. Everybody just acts like, oh, that's how it was, it's over, done. Now, another problem is they didn't even tell us who had the normalized scores. All they're doing right now, it looks like, is going off who had the highest score. So my other question is that even a 20-hour run? I know my ex's was exactly a 20-hour run because I'm the one that supplied the pills. But the first place score, so was that a 20-hour run or was that a 50-hour run? Because this is supposed to be a 20-hour normalized score, an average points per hour, whoever had the highest average points per hour. So that could explain it, but that's not what the rules were. The rules were normalized score, which people have already been bringing up on the forum. So again, if there's anybody out there who can explain how that 18.12% gap is humanly possible, I will be the first to tell my girlfriend to just deal with it, or ex-girlfriend, I should say. I will be the first to tell her to just sit down and shut up. But the problem is, it's bigger than one competition. It's bigger than one prize. This has been an ongoing problem for years. The Mayhem token trader was drained of prizes by people who use that Yogg pet to either improperly win or to keep tokens out of other people's hands. And that's why I love the way they redid Mayhem. I love the way that they made it into this giant grind fest. It's awesome because it takes the motivation away. You know, I was grinding Mayhem around the clock 24 hours a day. I think there was maybe 30 hours total that I didn't run for Halloween Mayhem. And people who are going to cheat are not going to put in that kind of time and effort, mayhem after mayhem after mayhem after mayhem. They're just not. So I love the way MindArk redid it. However, if there's going to be competitions, we have to be sure that this gets corrected. We have to be sure that whoever is smartest, has the best gear, has the best strategy wins. Not whoever can find a way to bypass the system, which should be a disqualification. Because that's just blatant cheating. And again, if you went back and looked at the old Mayhem scores, I was screaming this from the hilltops back then. I don't know why it surprises me that I'm still having to scream it now. You know, when I very first started doing Mayhem, my score, I would beat second and third place by 3,000 to 4,000 points. Easy. But then the person who beat me is sitting there and they've beat me by like 10,000 points. And I'm going, this isn't possible. I used to file a support case, Mayhem after Mayhem. This isn't possible. This isn't possible. This isn't possible. All of them got ignored. Then we find out that it wasn't possible. I was right. People were cheating. So, again, if this was a legitimate win, more power to you. Congratulations. I will be more than happy to make a video. If you decide to start a warp service or whatever, I'd be more than happy to support you because I always want to support other players, especially if they're able to outsmart me or be more strategic than me or just have a better plan than me. I will always give credit where credit is due. However, I find it really odd that every single score from all the winners in this entire competition are so freakishly close, except for that gap between first and second for Category 1, where it's 18.12%. And where we know the one thing that used to allow you to do that in a competition was bypassing the system to get a 20% advantage. So again, I'm doing this for two reasons. To call it out, to be sure the competition was secured, to be sure there wasn't any funny business going on. And again, I'm asking all of you, if you know of another way that that kind of a gap is possible, let me know immediately. So guys, from earnped.com, I've been Stevie B. I've got to go console a very, very cranky woman who is not very happy on a good day. I will be back later. Until then, I don't know what to tell you. If we can't keep these competitions secure, there's no point even having them.